and welcome to Wilderness Wednesday. Today we're going to learn about aquatic invertebrates. You may be wondering what that means. Aquatic means it lives in the water, and invertebrate means it doesn't have a spine. It's typically things that you'll find like worms, insects, all that stuff, but these ones are aquatic, so they live in water. There are a few different techniques you can use to collect these aquatic invertebrates. Today I have a bucket, a wash basin, but you can use a bowl, any container that will hold water in it. And I have just a little sieve from the dollar store or something. And over top of that, so that it's nice and thin, I have a mesh produce bag. And that's what I'm going to use to scoop things up. So first, you should scoop up some water in your basin and put it on a level surface of some sort. I'm just putting it on the rock right in front of me for now. Then take your sieve, kick up some of the water with your feet or your hands, or some of the dirt, sorry, with your feet or your hands, and then scoop in the water with this. So, if you have rubber boots, you can twist around in the mud, get lots of stuff kicked up, and then get in there. Then, once you have all that picked up, because most of the invertebrates will live in that dirt, then empty it into your water and see what you find. So, that little guy is a diving beetle, and these can actually get pretty big, but this guy's pretty little right now. Very cute. Okay. I wasn't having a ton of luck over there at the lakefront, so I decided to come to this more marshy spot and come hunting here. And I already see some really cool things. Ah! Okay, so first thing, I'm gonna fill this up with some water from in here. Now, remembering that this is like the same body of water that my last stuff was used in, so I'm not worried about it being dried off and everything. It is cleaned off mostly. Okay, and then we're gonna just dig in here. There's gonna be so much muck and guck, but also probably lots of really neat stuff, we hope. And then give her a little stir. Little ecosystems like this are so important to the functioning of the earth. All these little tiny organisms, these little critters, they are just so important to making sure that the lowest point of breaking down all this like plant matter and all these things that are in the water, they break that all down and they become food for bigger things like dragonflies and birds and things like that, and then that keeps building up the food chain, and it's so cool. But it's so important that we protect these areas so that they continue to feed our food chains and eventually at the top of the food chain, us. Whoa, already starting to see something crazy. I have no idea what that thing is. It looks super cool. Try and get it to focus. It's tough in the water to get it to focus. Oh, here I have this little snail, which is pretty cool. So, let's see what I can do here. They have this little trap door so that they can close themselves up really nicely. And yeah, their little body is in there, and so the door opens and they come out and crawl around, and they're just super, super neat. So snails actually have something called a foot. That whole bottom part that they move along is called their foot. And this little one is using its foot to walk on the top of the water. So it uses the surface tension from the water to move along the surface, which is actually a really efficient way for these creatures to move. So it's really cool to see. As you can see, there's lots of little things scuttling around in here, which is really cool to see, all the tiny things that we can find in this little bit of dirt and water. There are so many little critters in here, and they're all so different. They all move differently, they all eat differently. Many of them, it's just a step along the way before they're a full creature, like a mosquito or a dragonfly. But some of them will just keep living their life the way they are now. I've just made a really neat discovery. I have this pair of tweezers along so I can pick things up. So this very stringy thing that's probably difficult to see is actually an animal, well, a creature. It's called a horsehair worm. Super, super cool. So these guys are harmless to humans. I'm just gonna put her back in here and see. We'll see if you can see it, but they're harmless to humans, but they parasitize things like grasshoppers. So they get inside the grasshopper, and then they basically somehow convince the grasshopper to go to the water and jump in the water. And when the grasshopper drowns, then the horsehair worm bursts out of it. And it's so, so cool. Also, super sad for the grasshopper. As you can see, there's lots of little things scuttling around in here, which is really cool to see, all the tiny things that we can find in this little bit of dirt and water. There are so many little critters in here, and they're all so different. Okay, another way that you can find invertebrates in the water is by flipping over big rocks. So I've done that, and here I found some really cool things. So I know some people are gonna find this probably pretty gross, but we're doing it anyways because it's a really cool learning experience, and I find these guys super, super cool, so I want to teach you about them. Okay, he's going on a little adventure here. So, the really cool thing about leeches is that they are actually related to earthworms, which is really, really cool. And even though they, suck our blood and that's kind of scary, they actually don't really do us very much harm. And now this leech is on a journey. I got one in the sample bucket. So you can see here very well that on the caudal end there, which is the tail end, the leech has a little suction cup that it's using to stick onto surfaces and then find where it's going with its head, which also has a little suction cup, so it can just grab on and pull itself forward. But that's also the suction cup it uses to eat. Okay, bye little leech. Thanks for teaching us today. When you're done collecting all your invertebrates for the day and you're ready to pack up and go home, make sure that you totally clean out all of your equipment, and then make sure you totally dry it out before you use it again in a different body of water, because each body of water might have their own parasites or diseases or anything like that that could make the fish sick. And we want to make sure that each of those keeps to their own place. So wash it all off, dry it all totally out, and don't keep any of the water from each individual water source you find. Thank you for joining me this summer for Wilderness Wednesdays. This has been our last week together learning about nature, and I hope you can take some of these skills out and use them and just, take in how amazing God's beautiful wilderness is. Remember, in God's wilderness we are set apart but still together. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.